we'll see if we get some stuff going on. My thought was we'll maybe do a little bit of answer the Discord. One of the questions we had come through Discord was this thread, and it's basically talking about, and what we will do is we'll actually share my screen also. So start virtual camera, and I'm going to go back to my stage, make sure that everybody can see. Go to my stage, office hours, and I want to change my camera so you guys can see what I'm looking at. And we're going to be OBS, and you guys should be able to see my screen, which we're going to go into this thread, and we're going to talk about this issue. Basically, they're asking about how to move and reorder things, and having this, what I believe is the UI dashboard, to basically do this inside of FlowFuse and with a dashboard 2.0. If I recall correctly. So we go back to the general. The question was, hello, I have a problem. I don't have the layout button that lets me access the layout editor to move my different modules around like this. Any solutions? And what my thought is when I looked at this is, can I have, let me see if I can make that bigger. I'd like thread. Nope, that's not what I want to do. And we'll move this over to the side. Oh, I think I know what I did. I just clicked on the thread there. And I believe this is UI editor, and that's exactly what it is. And so let's see if we can confirm that. And I'm going to switch over to a different screen real quick. Open up and I'm going to share no longer the Discord. And we are going to say remote desktop, and we're going to turn off the Discord app. So you should be able to see this. So if I log into my FlowFuse, oh, come on, I'm already authenticated. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. And going over to, go into my presentations. I'm gonna open up Discord, see if we get any questions coming through. Make sure we're all good and having fun. So I'll zoom in so you guys can see it a little bit better if you're not able to see it. So I want to say that's UI templates. So we'll go to node-red.org. We're going to go to our flows, and I want to see which dashboard that is. Dashboards. I think it's UI template. Dashboard. FlowFuse, iframe, classic, Revolution Pi. That's cool. I have not seen that yet, so I'll have to check that out. Let's do downloads. Node-RED dashboard. I think it's UI table. We'll have to see. I haven't used it in a while. But looks like we got some people coming in on the YouTube. Welcome. If you have any questions, we're just answering questions today, doing stuff with dashboard, figuring out what's going on at Discord. We have some questions and answers there, but I'm trying to figure out one of the questions, if I can pull it up again. I think I've got Discord over here, and we're going to come over here, and the question was in our thread was this UI. I'm curious if anybody knows what this UI layout. I can't remember which dashboard tool this is. And then I guess the more important thing is what we can go over is to our GitHub to see if a layout editor is there. So let's do that. GitHub dashboard 2.0 FlowFuse. Bingo. And here we go. So what we need to do is go over to the GitHub, and we're going to look at the issues. and see exactly what if we have like what the visualization organize layout, because I'm sure this is something that somebody's already created as an issue. And again, if you have any, is it Flex Dash? Let's see what Flex Dash is. Flex Dash. Not familiar with this one. And maybe what we can do is I'll spin up a new instance real quick, and I'll come over here and we'll call this application instances, add a new instance. We'll call this dashboard testing. And blank medium. Nah, we'll stick with Node-RED 3.1. We don't need to conflate two different problems. I don't need to be like figuring out if there's a bug with one of these new dashboard tools. So let's open up and we'll let this start up and we'll install FlexDash. Thanks, Christopher, and see if that's the issue. You've been working on some dashboard stuff. I'm like one of those people when I used to do automation controls, I kind of avoided doing any visualization stuff. Like, if a little bit about me is, as a child, I literally despise coloring, and to this day it literally gives me anxiety. So anytime you have to think about the organization of things, I'm like, there are so many people out there that are really, really excited about this stuff, so definitely handing it over to them. Oh, and another thing what we're going to talk about today is the new releases. So let me do that. That's what I wanted to do. We'll log into that. So this is release day. New product, new offerings. Maybe I'll stop sharing my screen for just a second. Don't need to give you guys any details here. Boom. We'll do that. And easy. I shouldn't also say my password as I type it in. That would probably be a good idea not to do that. It's asks me to. Two-factor authentication is key. And GitHub. Approve. All right, we can start sharing my screen again because we are logged into that system. Cool. But yeah. And so what we were going to do is the release notes. I want to show you guys the releases, what we got coming up. I haven't finished the blog, but we can still go over it because I've gotten approval that these are the things that we ship today. So let's go to FlowFuse website, pull request, and I can show you guys the release highlights 2.5. I actually did some changes and having some people look at stuff. Oh, was there any updates? I'll look at that in a little bit. That's not what I want to click on. But we can actually see a preview, and we'll go through these. So if you're interested in what FlowFuse has coming up next, excited to show you. This is like a way we can preview our deployments. But FlowFuse 2.5 features. New feature to visualize snapshots, LDAP integration, and more. So one of the things we're announcing today is we got LDAP authentication. So some of the people, especially in the OT environment, we see a lot of people wanting to do LDAP authentication. And we have set up that integration, and be aware of that. So it doesn't mean much if you don't care, but if you do care, you're going to be interested in that because that's going to be key for you, because especially in the OT space, still a lot of dependency there. So one of the cool things, and we'll go through this in a second, is compare snapshots visually. So one of the things that, like, you know, we think about in the Git compare, like, hey, I want to see exactly the differences between those. We started off with our first iteration of comparing deployments or snapshots, and we should show you that now. So I have my dashboard testing grade. We'll do that here, and I'll open up the editor, and we'll create a quick flow. Maybe I'll see if I have a team flow that I can like import or something like that. And get out of that. We're gonna put this. We're gonna do that, and we're going to say deploy. And then I'm going to import from my team library. Team library, if you don't know, is the whatever you have saved over here. I've got this weatherflow.json. I'm going to import this weatherflow.json and paste it there. Don't have the dashboard, so that's okay. We'll just delete it. And search for unknown nodes. And I got to delete these, well, because I don't have the dashboard installed on this one. I'm not going to. Okay, so now I've done 2 deploys. Now if I come back over here into my FlowFuse application, I'll look at my instances, and I believe I called it dashboard testing GMD. Go to snapshots. I should have 2 auto snapshots. Now, if I click on compare snapshots, and I want to compare it to my other snapshot, there we go. And so no difference is found there. And I click compare. Okay, cool. So what we now have is, this is the existing, I'm looking at the existing dashboard. And if I slide this, you can see what's not there. So from here, I can click next, and it'll highlight all these new items that are built into this particular instance. So really nice to identify what has changed between instances and maybe what has broken. So really cool feature that is available if you haven't seen that just yet. And excuse me. Really cool feature to see what has been released. Which has changed in your dashboard. So if I now go in here and say, let's say create a snapshot, we'll call this running before changes. Let's just say create snapshot. Now, when I go into the system and I want to then, we'll just say, hey, you know what, I don't want this anymore. We're going to add a function node up here with an inject node and a debug node. And I click deploy. So now I'm going to compare. So right now, before changes, I think I actually have my latest snapshot. So I'm going to compare my latest snapshot here. Compare snapshot to before changes. Compare. Now, what I see is I'm comparing the first one to the second one. So first one to the second one, and what we can see is we deleted all these things. So a feature that I think a lot of people are going to be really excited about. I know I'm excited about it because I've heard so many people say it'd be really nice to see what changes, especially when you're trying to do like if you have a huge flow, it literally will click and highlight the things that are gone or missing from your flows now, with an ability to like swap. Yeah, really cool stuff. Really shout outs to Steve. I know he's been working on that recently. Really super awesome feature. Looks like I got some stuff. Okay, so lost both audio. Looks like we're back in audio. Cool. Glad to hear you're back. I'm wondering if this is a Discord issue, Christopher, or if this is something else. But we'll figure it out and maybe troubleshoot later. So that's one of the features. Let's go back to the release. So compare snapshots visually. We also now have the ability to preview blueprints before deployment. And what that means is if I come back over here to FlowFuse, similar to what you see here, if I come over here to library and I see blueprints, I now can come in here and say, so we got some things that make your life a little bit easier. CRUD database API. Restarting Discord services helped. Cool. So restarting Discord services helped fix that issue. And for audio, if you're having audio issues, if you're in Discord for us. The next thing we have is ability to see these blueprints before they're even available, before you have to deploy them. So you can kind of get an idea of what it does and so forth. I kind of like identify. And the same with some of these other ones. Just real quick, easy way to doing it. Same with the team library. This is my weather JSON. You can see exactly what's going on. Now, let's talk about like where these really come into value. Blueprints and team library. So team library is kind of like your personal blueprints, and blueprints are the ones that FlowFuse has created, and they function as a way for you to get started and or create value that can be easily used and replicated across your enterprise. So don't really use it as a way to like kind of make a snapshot of something. Think of it as, hey, my colleague in a different group or different application, they need to integrate with this database. So what I can do is I can just take even a single node and create a way for them to integrate, so they have all the built-in things. Like maybe it's a function that does a specific feature, and you can give it that custom name and so forth. Then you can also just copy the clipboard and import it and so forth. It's just a way to save and back up within your organization. So really cool feature there. And the biggest thing the biggest thing is that you now can visualize that within the FlowFuse platform. The next thing that we have, if I can find where it is, there we go. Okay, so we preview blueprints before deployment, and now we can import and export snapshots. Really kind of a cool feature of what we can do is if you're inside of your dashboard and you go into your instances and we see, let's go back into dashboard testing and all of our snapshots we've created today. Sorry, I'm getting over a little bit of a cold, so my apologies if I go offline for or mute. So now, when you look at this, you're able to compare snapshots, which we saw, and now you can also download snapshots. And that is a really nice feature, and we can kind of go through what that exercise is. Ooh, my secret key. I'm going to save that, and we can click download. So now we see my new download. It's saved here. Perfect. And if I want to upload the snapshot, I select the snapshot from my downloads. There we go. Downloads. And now drop in my secret credential. We'll give this a name. Custom upload snapshot. And we're going to say this is like fun testing. And we click upload. And now we have our custom upload snapshot that we just did a moment ago. So where does this really come into play? So there's a couple things to think about when you're interested in custom snapshots. Custom snapshots come into play when you are interested in maybe having an offline backup. And you're like, well, that's, there's one of my colleagues was like, so your definition of backups might be different from people to people, and you can get into a lot of discussions there. But really, they can be that automated perspective of what an offline backup is. And you're saying, well, how do I do that automatically? If you go to the APIs, FlowFuse API, and this is where you can leverage the APIs and configurations. So if you know those information about what that device ID is, and so we say snapshot, this is where you can do the create a snapshot from a device owned by an instance and create that's not it. We want to download, delete snapshot, download, upload, import a snapshot. And so from there, if you want to export it, there we go. That's what it is. So you can basically be able to import and export these snapshots, whether it's an offline system. Another reason why you might be able to want to have snapshots is if you have two FlowFuse platforms running independently, you're running on-prem. We see that a lot of cases in enterprises that have a lot of security standards. We are SOC 2 Type 2 compliant, but still people want to have those run within their four walls of their company. And in cases like that, they might have multiple deployments of FlowFuse per plant or facility, and they want to share these flows between these environments. And one of the key things, this isn't just what the flow is. This is also the palette manager, some configurations, and all those configuration details associated to that particular flow. Again, you might have to change those, but it still has it all built out for you. And I haven't tested this yet, but I'm assuming it has all the credentials as well pre-saved into it as well. That's why you have the secret key. So import, export snapshots, and you can back those up and share them across different platforms. Really, really, really handy for you. So see if there's any questions for that. If not, we'll continue on to other things that have been released. So we talked about snapshots and deployed dashboards and APIs running on FlowFuse on your own domain. So this is something that we had a request from some customers. And oftentimes we see customers wanting to use Node-RED and FlowFuse as like their API backend for their customers. So let's say you have some custom data that is existing within your environment, and you've set up a services for your customer, and you leverage Node-RED. And a lot of times you want to leverage your own domain. This allows you to edit if you have this living in within the FlowFuse cloud platform, you can now customize it so it looks and functions as if it's underneath your own domain. Really useful feature. I'm sure I'm saying things in like probably not the most correct way of saying things, but it's close enough to say basically you can run these deployments of FlowFuse, our Node-RED within your domain. Really handy. Don't have the details, can't really display it here, but know that that is a feature that we have, and then you can kind of go through that process. All right, now that is the latest of updates. Let's go back, and what we were working on is we wanted to see what FlexDash was, and it ties into our Discord question that we had about this particular visualization. So let's see if we can figure that out. Let's just ask him which node displays this information. Cool. And FlexDash, here we go. We're going to install FlexDash over here. I think we don't need this stuff right now. Deploy and manage palette. Hey, ZJ. FlexDash. And just kind of curious because I'm trying to help out this question. Let's see. Installing FlexDash. Before installing, please read the known bit of documentation. It might require a restart. I wish I could get that music going, but I could change the volume of it because I did kind of like it as like background noise. It reminds me of like the like Nintendo Mario or something like that. When you're sitting there waiting on your little I can't remember, the Mii's or whatever they're called, basically running around in the Wii screen. Yeah. Core widgets. Cool. We'll install that one too. I might mute Discord audio so you don't hear those boop bloop coming through. And let's see, probably need to restart it, so we'll do that real quick. Overview, actions, and restart. No. And it's running. Let's see if we can just do, there we go. And we see, I wonder where I go in to see that feature, because I do want to see that and make sure that we can kind of articulate how this works. That's the iframe. We might have to move on to our next issue in question, moving on to the next one, but maybe it's a feature over here, because I imagine I'm gonna have to put something over here. It's yeah, I don't know enough about this particular one. Grid pop up tab. Probably need to add a new tab. Test title test dashboard. Probably need a new dashboard. Flex dash add and contents add and add and done. Deploy. So now I'm sure I'll probably see flow debugger. No. Not seeing where that like flex dashboard, which he was talking about, where I can edit that view. So I don't know where I'm gonna be able to kind of display that. But what we're trying to do is help solve this issue right here. One of the questions was asking like dashboard layout editor, and how if we have the dashboard layout editor within our solution. So let's go back over to here and let's look back into the Node-RED issues to dashboard to see if like flow layout editor. Visual layout editor. So this is probably one of those like first things, which I imagine was like just have a new set of events, widget layout, perhaps. Another idea for the layout current version dashboard. So this is a dashboard 0.1 feature. So it looks like it's labeled 2 weeks ago, so people have been working on this. So I'm going to copy this one and drop it in chat and say this is a feature request into that Discord. This is a feature request. Please comment here to show your interest in this feature. Perfect. Gonna. So that was exactly what I think he was wanting. So we'll move on from here. Let's see what we got in some of the other chat areas. Maybe we'll go to FlowFuse. Let's see what the forums are doing. Not FlowFuse, Node-RED. I was like, why am I not seeing what I need to see? No worries. We figured it out. We're all here. We're all good. All right. But we're gonna have fun. We're gonna answer some questions in the within the Node-RED discourse. See if we can help out anybody. Noob question. Using Node.js script in a function node. Hello, I would like to run this node. Let's see first, see if anybody's answered it. Looks like people are already jumping on this one. Oh, yeah. You have to set it up in the setup tab. Steve's always on top of it. All right. Let's see if there's any FlowFuse questions that we can answer. FlowFuse, vendors, and managing secrets in FlowFuse. No new questions coming through. Awesome. Feels like that, managing secrets. Okay, so industrial, discuss around industrial specific topics. Omron, 12 days ago, 9 hours ago, S7 out, send a variable run list at runtime. To write in PLC using S7 out, I have to write all variables in it and before this code. I have to make an array, one for variables, another for values. Desired output, I want to remove the variables from the S7 out and send it from the prepare data function. Okay. It doesn't help anyone, you including the PLC node. I'm missing what you mean. I get the payload. Okay, so let's just mess with it. We'll import. So that's the wrong flow there. He says this is the right flow, so we'll copy that one. And we'll open the editor, which I already have open over here. And I think we're going to go ahead and, well, I guess we can leave these here. Get out of here. Configuration nodes. Yeah, we don't need this anymore. Deploy that. All right. Import. Boop. That doesn't seem right. Where was I? S7L. Okay, so I have a payload which looks like this. Oh, here's the right JSON. Okay, unknown MySQL. So S7 out, S7 com MySQL. So we're gonna manage the palettes. Install MySQL. I wish there was like when you export, it would tell you the list of the nodes that are like in a comment, if that makes sense. So you can basically see like, hey, you need to install this node. Maybe that's a feature request I could do. Which basically it already knows. I wouldn't be surprised if it's this one right here. So let's install that one. And right, yeah, exactly. A dependency handler suggesting downloads upon report. So you can just like, hey, it looks like it's this version and this version. Just automatically pull it up in the palette manager. That would be nice. I'll make that issue. Actually, you know what? Well, I won't do that right now. I'm sure that there's something there that helps out. And it probably is it probably already exists. I just don't know about it yet. And this is exactly what I want to do. Say it's like, okay, how do I, if I import a node, I'll ask Steve real quick. I wonder if Steve's around. All right, you're not going to be able to see this, but I want to see this. Steve. Nope, Steve's not around. Channels. I'm talking in our internal FlowFuse. I'm going to ask in the Node-RED channel real quick. Imagine this already exists. How, when importing a flow from a, let's say a flow from an external source, and I don't have the dependencies, the nodes show up missing. Nothing new, but I was curious, what is the quickest pathway to fixing, to installing the right nodes? I imagine I am doing it the brute force way, but probably a much more simple way exists. Period. All right, so just ask the question in our Node-RED internal, yeah, npm install. But yeah, well, yeah, of course. But I don't know if we have that. I imagine, yeah, like it basically adds a dependency, but that list is existing inside here, which we see if I come back over here to palette. I see all the installed mods. What would be really cool is if it automatically filled this up and I can say, yeah, I want that one. And I can just like click a button and say, yep, add that one, add that one, add that one. Especially if you have it here. Cool. And so you're on the same page with me, Christopher. So we'll see if we can find an answer out for us real quick. The problem is most of these people are in Europe England, UK place. So they're maybe on the end of the day. It is release days, so they got their releases and they're probably been. So this, cool. Version 4 will include the list of nodes IIRC. I'm sure that stands for an acronym as far as being able to see that. Ben is another one of those guys you see on forums all over the place with having answers that help out with this. Manually installing them is the only option at the moment. Cool. So, awesome. Glad to hear that it is coming. Thanks. Yeah, life outside of work. I sometimes have that, but but the thing is like I enjoy what I do, so it's always nice. So then therefore you're never working if you're outside of work. So let's see if he had documented in this. So we don't need that anymore. Documented which nodes, because that's always key. Which nodes? Nope, no nodes. Documentation here. Ooh, V4 won't actually. School. Okay. Alright, so we do know with the S7 one, so let's install that one real quick. S7. Node reg contrib S7. Cool, there we got that one down. But we need S7 com read. Com. Okay, so we'll install that one. Cool. So this is. I've got an active thread on my internal conversations going about how to solve this. So bringing this up is good, but I cannot share that because it is work related. So we're just missing the MSSQL. I'm sure MSSQL. We probably installed the wrong one. And I probably don't need to install these, but I like to install just so I can have a full understanding about what's going on, because I get the documentation. Should be a 4.1 feature, so probably not on 4.0, Christopher, coming out, but it will be a 4.1, it sounds like. Again, forward-looking statement. Can't make any promises, but Nick's definitely probably on top of it. Sounds like they're already thinking about it, so that's good. And if we pick the right one, everything's going to work, and then we'll kind of dive into those. Yeah. Running out of coffee. Tragic. I don't need any more coffee. It is. I guess I still have about 15 minutes for caffeine. I'm on the East Coast of the U.S., and I try to limit my caffeine before noon. And it doesn't look like that was the right one. Alright, so let's see if we can see what this particular... I think he did have an image of what it looked like. Prepare... No, it didn't have an image. So, my SQL. Let's look at flows. Actually, I've got it right here, but... I'm just trying to get too many tabs. MSQL. We'll do this one. See if this is it. Good chance of it. And install. Supported by Steve. One of one of the ones Steve supports, who's also the forum answerer extraordinaire. Yep, and that was it. Cool. So now we can deploy, and let's see exactly what this flow is doing. So we've got a timestamp. It injects when we decided for it to inject. We've got a query, message payload select, one top program ID, job ID, length, left, job code, as job code. What is this? I guess we needed, oh, this is the SQL query for this. Now let's see what exactly the problem is over here again. Not here. So he is wanting to send the variables list in runtime. To write in PLC using S7 out, I have to write all variables in it. And before this code, I have to make an array one for variables and another one for values. For variables and one for values. Make two arrays, one for variables and one for values. Desired output, I want to remove the variables from the S7 out and send it from the prepared data function. So let's look at prepared data function. Prepared data function. Problem is that I don't have an example, so I really need an example payload here that I can example. I do have a PLC somewhere in here. Yeah, but I'm not gonna try to set up with a 1200 PLC right now. So basically we will just disable this so it's not just constantly wrecking my network. And it's also running in the cloud, so it's not even my network. Alright, so he wants to be able to do a SQL query, message.payload, program ID, message.payload job ID, message.payload length, message variables, program job length, and that's just an array of strings. And writing them to the block. This is just, I guess, a example of how to read from that particular device. Okay, so let's look to see how this works. Inputs is payload. The data to be written in it will be casted to the required data type whenever possible. The variable to write on the PLC according to the variables on the list on the endpoint. This takes effect only if the variable field is left empty in the configuration. Inputs is payload data to be written. Writes to a memory area of the PLC. Okay. Write data block on PLC E63 DV. So, okay. PLC, they're defining the PLC. Select the variable. I'm not so sure. Okay, so the length is the amount of bits or probably bytes that we want to write to. The job ID is job length program. So the thing is right now we've got rack address, and this is all the configuration, the variables, program. Okay, so we've already defined the. Okay, so we have variables called program job and length, and these are the locations in which we're writing them, which is already defined, and so that makes sense. So double int db. So let's go over here to Siemens and look at the documentation for this particular Siemens S7. S7 contrib. Variable addressing, so DB looks like that addressing is right. And we are giving it so let's close some of this stuff that we don't need anymore. All right, so we have program job length. Now, if we come over here, we have program message.variable. The variable to write on the PLC according to the variable list on the PLC input takes effect only if the variable field is left empty on the configuration. Empty if it's left empty on the configuration. So what we can do, let's go ahead, and I wonder if there's a sample. So let's import team examples. No example flows for this particular device. So let's go back over here and see if they have some examples that we can look at up on GitHub. Come on, where's my examples? Test, maybe? Tools, red. That might work. So let's just copy raw file. It looks like it's a sample. Import. Okay. Okay, but this doesn't look like the program we're using. Because this is when we look at our things, and I've got a hard stop at the top there, so we may not be able to finish this, but you know, one of the things that might be valuable is seeing how I would go through troubleshooting these things for future people in the future. Let's go to manage palettes. If there's no questions, let me double check. I haven't looked at OBS. Nope, nobody's asking questions over there. Let's see, write data block. So we are not in the right program. Actually, we are. That is the right program. Because that's exactly the same icon as what we have here, except for these are writes, okay? So we have local snap 7 with variables of, okay, so db1-bool is a variable, and, okay, so db1-bool, and when I looked at that, it said the variables here is for db1, comma, dbx0.0, db1 bool. So we want to find where this is written to. Is that payload? No. And they're all sending the message.payload, empty string. But none of them tell me where they're defined or written to. So variable, okay, so my variable is db1 bool. Oh, so what the problem is it looks like in this particular case, he's trying to do it all in one time because he's preparing data, but you need it to actually be a split, or it looks like basically these need to be, so he's saying like message variables. Okay, let's look to see if that has the capabilities to be able to split a variable written. So we're writing a variable and we're writing a payload. So that's looking at the list of variables I can select from here. So right now, if I do program, it's great. So, but I need to send those. It looks like you need to send them as individual messages. So I think we're going to answer this question basically by saying it looks like they're reply and say, in my code, I entered the variable list twice. Does it take an array? I don't think it takes an array. I don't think it can take an array. Let's see all variables. Array. Okay, so usage. Single variable. A single variable can be selected from the configuration. Perfect. All variables, one per message. like the single variable mode, but for all variables configured. If different checked, a message is sent every time any variable changes. If different is unchecked, one message is sent for every variable. Contains an object with all configured variables. I don't think it can be an array. Yeah, it's not. So I think the answer is it needs to be sent per message. We'll just reply that real quick. I am not. Have you tested it out sending the data as single what's the word, objects? It's not really objects, it's like a single data point. So in data point instead of an array. I am not 100% sure that it can take an array. I could be wrong, but these would be the troubleshooting steps I would take. Great. It looks to me that it takes the it would take the array as instead as separate messages. And we can copy the documentation, not to be rude, just to share. Okay, all variables, one per message. So, cool. I'm going to comment this. And boom. All right, we're going to close this out today. We answered one question. We had some fun. Please join next time. If you have any Node-RED questions, especially around industrial or professional use cases, we'll be happy to answer them, have some fun. This is what I think we'll be doing weekly, is just going through forums and stuff like that, answering questions, and make that open opportunity for you to ask questions here. All right, thank you everyone for joining, and we will see you guys